Welcome to the Demystify Technology podcast from the MacLaurin Group.
Typically, you go through the due diligence process. What's the world of private equity?
Right. Can't wait. Demystify it.
Hey, Xana Ho, just because you were watching, apparently, Jesus Christ Superstar yesterday.
It's still a classic from 1972.
It is still a classic. Wasn't Ben Vereen in that, or was he just in Pippin? No, I think he was just in Pippin.
Can't remember.
You got me there.
So you're looking good?
Yeah, you too, man. How are you?
Doing not bad. It's been a wee while.
Yeah, how are you? You've been coughing up a lung here in the pre-show. So
it's touch and go. Whether I'll make it to the end is yet to be seen. But we've got our my companion here, Jim Headley. He's with us.
Good morning, Jim.
I only see half of Jim Headley, so he's only got like the left arm and part of his face. He's hiding behind the microphone.
That's the best part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The other side is a train wreck.
Is he? You like the Paul Schaefer here?
Yes,
David
that's
Letterman
exactly what I am.
The
I've really considered myself more of Vanna White, but we'll go.
You certainly have the figure for it. I will say that, Dr. Headley. I'd like to buy a vowel. And by the way, no spoilers. I still haven't seen the new Luther yet.
What are you doing with your life?
Well, I don't run a cable hack for UK content. It's available yet here. Mr. Ran my own cable from Edinburgh all the way to Richmond.
Okay. Well, should one have caught maybe a neighbour watching it? Yes. It is phenomenal. The new Luther is absolutely fantastic.
The FCC response time is incredible.
I'm waiting with bated breath. So, how are you, man? You guys look good. I like your office.
Thank you. We're doing good. We're keeping busy.
Looks like you're keeping busy. I like, that you've got apparently 5 world clocks there in the back of the room. Both Android and iPhone make a nice multi-world clock. But, hey, wall clocks are...
Amazon also creates one, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm guessing that those were really on sale somewhere or on eBay. It's, you don't pay full price for something like that.
Hey, they're classic Target clocks.
And we've got a lot of wall space to fill.
Yeah, I heard that that she who will not be named was forced into her own office for loud talking over the development team. That's what I heard.
It is absolutely true, and she's much happier there.
Yes, and so are you.
I was going to add that.
She's on a farm playing with other CEOs at this moment.
It's symbiotic. It worked out for everybody.
Yes.
So what do you want to talk about?
Golly.
Here I am.
Here you are. Well, we could talk about what we've been doing for the past year, because we just celebrated our year's worth of business.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we've been in business for a year.
This is where I'd have to do the Eddie Murphy from Beverly Hills Cop. Get them out of here! I edited that for the kiddies, so there you go.
Yes, and if I could remember that camp guy that replied back to him. Yes, that's exactly what we've been doing for a year. And it's been fun. It's been busy.
Excellent.
So we've been effectively working as, in short, an outsourced operating partner for private equity firms. So not everybody has a Jim Milbery, but now they can.
And you call that a good thing?
I don't know how I feel about my life now.
I gotta tell you, I think they don't need it because they already have people that write lousy code. What? Somebody else writes lousy code.
It's very true. It's very true. So basically, yes, we've been supporting a number of PE firms and their portfolio companies, and effectively helping out where, whether it's a CIO or a CTO, anything that would hit their desk comes under our remit to be able to help, guide, mentor, and train.
So is it the CEO is bringing you in these cases, or is the private equity firm bringing you into the CEO?
Mostly the PE firm is bringing us in. And it's usually just, we do the due diligence as well. We've got that down to a fine art now, but fundamentally it's a sort of help post-deal in order to, as you know yourself, most of the time, particularly at the sort of level of customers that we have, this is the first time they've been in the PE world. They simply don't know how to deal with new bosses or a new hierarchy above them and what they should or shouldn't say or how they should present a roadmap or how you should do a re-architecture and all that sort of stuff. And we'll talk about this one later, but the one word that a PE firm never wants to hear is Reddit rewrite word because that just has a lots of dollar amounts associated with it, and it's a very scary business because a rewrite of an architecture, as you know, can take years. But one needs to position that in such a way that you can get value out of it before you have to sort of launch in 2 to 3 years' time. So again, anything that would hit a CTO or a CIO's desk as they sort of try to navigate this new world, we're there to help.
Got it. Well, you'll have no shortage of business, that's for sure.
Well, we like to think so, but we are growing. We've hired a number of people, and we're getting involved in a huge variety of different projects and enterprises, and just it's been fascinating. To sort of, while it's been a lot of different industry verticals, the problems are the same. You know, when it comes to running and growing an engineering team, they're fundamentally the same. Doesn't matter who your end customer is. We've all got the same challenges.
Yeah, I would say that, we sit in a spot where we're only buying, founder owned or spinning out from a larger company tech businesses. So it's slightly different. I mean, if you're, you and I worked on Union Corrugating years ago, and, that was a manufacturer of metal roofing products, and they certainly had technology problems, but technology didn't drive that business, right?
Yeah.
There is a line that if you're in the business of, creating hardware or software, you're a tech business, and it's more fundamental to the organization, as opposed to it's a cost center that you have to have in order to run the company, right? And that's kind of line. My assumption is you're getting involved in companies that are, in the software or hardware business, as opposed to manufacturers or consumer product goods guys or healthcare.
To your point, what's truly amazing is when you, especially from the organizations that we interact with, are typically much like you would describe your typical portfolio. These are typically founder-led, and it's amazing how frequently we relearn the same lessons when we go in there and see the exact same behavior. That it kind of grew out of necessity with no vision for scale. What's truly awesome is that the equity firm can come in, bring resources like Alan to bear on a problem that they know he solved 100 times before, and it's eye-opening for these guys to see that for the first time. Yeah, it's not that they're ignorant or stupid, but far from it. They just don't know what they don't know.
Well, our history with founder-owned tech businesses is, this is sort of a, general, doesn't mean it applies to every company, but it's often the case that the founder comes from the industry. They were involved in some company, maybe a big competitor or something like that, realized they could do a better job, or, they were in the industry in some way and saw a way to build a software solution. They go down the street and find, whatever software developer they can get. He or she uses whatever stack of products they already know, and they build something, and the salesperson, the founder is the chief salesperson, the chief product manager, the chief implementer for the first, 3, 4, 5 years of that business, right? And everything that you build is almost built on demand for, the next customer, the next prospect. And, by the time we come along, 5, 10 years later, the founders built an organization where everybody reports up to them. The managers themselves don't talk a whole lot, that, they are kind of the chief of the boat, if you will, and all decisions come through them. And that's when it starts to fall apart, right? That it gets to a point where it's just too big for them to manage, but they've built an organization that is, completely reliant on them running the show. And now it's time to grow that organization or make technology changes. And they haven't made technology changes. They never had to do it. They built a product. And, suddenly they've got to retrofit that product or re-architect it. And that's usually a big deal.
Yeah. And there's been a number of projects that we've got involved in the last year where, technology's been 30 plus years old simply because the founder has not seen software as something that ages. How does something that's ones and zeros age? It can't age, surely. It's still doing the same thing it did 20 years ago perfectly today. Why would I need to spend more money on this?
Well, I always say the same metaphor, Alan. It's, the same founder who trades in his BMW every year or her BMW for a new one, wants to know why a 10-year-old server needs to be replaced or a 10-year-old code needs to be replaced. Like, let's go to the big board here. That brand new BMW, just traded. It's the same thing. It's not worn out, right?
Yeah, but that's sometimes a leap too far there.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been fun.
Is that like a bridge? Is that like a bridge too far? Montgomery's Folly.
Oh, well, very good, very good. But the other thing that we've been getting into, which has been quite fun, actually, has been the sort of data. and looking at the value of data, the value of, well, do they actually own it in the first place? Are they treating it in a secure and scalable way? And when we mean scalable, it's not like suddenly we want terabytes of data in there. It's more, can the organization get at that data? Can they actually utilize that data? And, a lot of the engagements that Jim has been involved in has been basically unlocking that little nugget of gold that's been sitting in the back cupboard that they didn't realize that they really actually had.
I mean, that's a challenge in all these businesses. Today's world, servers are cheap, networks are cheap. A lot of these companies capture a ton of data. They just don't have the mental bandwidth to deal with it. Like, they don't organize it. They don't know how to start interrogating it. And I think they also get lost that, as you know, I was an applied stats major, right? And not every hypothesis leads to anything. Sometimes your R squared there is no correlation, right? And that's the challenge. Is I think people sometimes look at their data and go, oh, well, I didn't get anything meaningful out of it. There mustn't be anything meaningful in any of this data. It's like, well, maybe you tested the wrong hypothesis, or, maybe you didn't, clean the data, or maybe you didn't correlate it, or maybe you didn't analyze it, maybe you didn't get it in front of the right person who would know, how to look at it from a different angle, right? That's a big challenge. I think it's going to be a bigger challenge going forward because, you can just capture data now, without really regard for the cost.
You bring up an excellent point. It's quite often it's data intuition versus data science, right? I think I know the value of the data and the predicted outcome. And for a lot of organizations, they are capturing that. But even today, we're finding people who are hemorrhaging data, right? They want this data-enabled environment, even if they don't have an intuitive sense of what they think the data can tell them. They know, they have a picture in their mind of AI and data scientists gleaming all of the value from the data that they would ever need and growing the company 5x based on these discoveries. But in the meantime, they're hemorrhaging data. They don't really capture the right data. It can be either end of the spectrum. How do you leverage what you got, or at the very least, stop throwing it away?
Look, all you got to do is just whatever your product is, you just label it cloud-based AI,
blockchain,
big data analytics for millennials.
All running on top of blockchain.
Correct.
Of course, right.
Yeah.
Well, everything runs on top of blockchain.
Yes.
Of course.
Why wouldn't you run on top of blockchain?
And basically,
right?
AI is when you join two tables together, and blockchain is when you've got multiple databases all together.
AI is when you apply Boolean logic.
Oh, that's
on
true.
Top of a join.
Yeah, now you're sophisticated.
Well, that's become shouldn't we be using the blockchain for this? Yeah. It's like Dilbert's boss, right? The pointy-headed boss, right? My favorite old Dilbert was the boss saying, my laptop is too heavy, and Dilbert says, why don't you just delete some files from it? That's a great idea.
So turning the question back to you, my friend, when you're looking at deals and looking at stuff, what is popping up on current decks at the moment? Is the blockchain, AI, machine learning, are these buzzwords creeping into every deck now to try and glamorize
I mean, we're probably not gonna see that as much as the venture guys will see it, right? Like, everything has to be tied to something that is, on Gartner's hype curve, right? For any new kind of technology, there'll be a bunch of startups chasing that. And then a lot of the bigger guys in that marketplace will start throwing that stuff in. It's a classic case of, you start to see small tech companies, focused around AI. Well, Oracle and SAP will announce some AI stuff just to freeze the market, right? Not as common in the PE side of things as you see on the venture side of things, right? Now, we'll get customers of some of our portfolio companies, asking those questions. What are you doing about AI?
I'm just taking a photograph because we can put to rest once and for all. This is not the Jim Milbery that's working in this building. We've got him on the podcast, and he's just walked in the building now.
Are you guys going to analyze this like the Zapruder film?
Yeah, yes. Sure. Because this could be recorded. We could be getting sucked in something credit here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so my team of crack CIA, Black Ops guys will be raiding your offices because this was never supposed to happen. We don't see the hype as much. I mean, I think we get customers of our portfolio companies asking about these things. Our vision is to kind of keep things right down the center, right? That, there's no, particularly, let's just take AI as an example. A lot of times basic statistics is all you really need. Not every solution requires, machine learning and AI. Most people haven't even really used basic statistics. So when you hear it, you're often, if you turn the tables on somebody, well, we got to use AI for this. Well, great. Why, how, what's the advantage of AI versus, competing technologies to do this? And why do you think AI is going to lead to a better solution than basic statistics?
Yeah, well, we've definitely seen that where we've had that sort of high level conversation with the CEO, and then you realize you don't even have a BI solution. You're not even looking at any data yet, let alone taking, that's an evolutionary step way too far. You've no idea what you're going to be asking of your machine learning environment or your AI environment until you've got some basic tabular, good old data that you can feel like you can action the business on.
Right. Adopt some fundamental attributes of a data and analytic enabled environment, and let's go from there.
I mean, to be fair, Jim, one of the problems you run into is, look, if the customer of that company is asking for it, this is a fight that I had years and years ago that, at the dawn of the app server, marketplace, when I was working for Oracle, the database guys at Oracle said, look, most of that functionality should just run in the database, because you're pulling data from the database. So we can generate web pages out of the database server. That's a more efficient way to do it. And I said, I'm not going to argue whether that's true or false. What I'm arguing is I've got prospects, customers with their hand out and money in it that are saying, I'd like to buy an application server. So I'd like to sell them one. And that's the challenge. So sometimes you've got customers saying, look, I want to buy an AI-based solution. You can try and educate the market, but sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes the customer says, I want to buy something that's AI, blockchain, IoT based. Okay. Sometimes you have to have marketecture, as we call it, right? You don't really do much engineering. You do some marketecture that looks like you're using.
I like that word, marketecture.
I didn't invent that. I forget who invented that, but it's marketecture is useful to delay those things. Like, I get it. You want to buy, I'm not going to fight with the customer with money in their hands that wants to buy something, even if it's not necessarily the right solution. If I could take my product and make it fit by using a little marketecture, I'll do that. I mean, there's no reason not to, right?
That's very clever. It's very clever. So with respect to, when you're looking at deals, etc., well, what would a prospective CEO be thinking about when they're approaching a private equity company? Like what sort of things would they be looking for?
Well, in our market, it's slightly different because we're either buying a company from a founder. That founder has promoted a lieutenant to effectively be the CEO, maybe maybe already, or maybe at the close of the deal. Or the founder is going to say, I don't have a CEO. We're not going to back the founder. Typically, the founder wants to exit the business, which is why they're selling to us. And then we have to bring a CEO. So they'll vary. If I'm bringing a CEO to the deal, then that CEO is already more paired with us than they are paired with the company that we're putting them into, right? That, because we're bringing them to the deal. So typically they're, already sort of primed to work with us. On the other side, if, you're getting somebody that the CEO has promoted into the slot at that portfolio company, they're going to be suspicious. They've been working for the founder. They probably came up through the business. The founders put them in the top seat, and they're going to be generally more resistant to running it differently than the founder was running.
And historically, which model works better?
I don't think there's one model that works better, right? I mean, if there's advantages to each. If the founder has promoted somebody from within to be the CEO, and you come along and you're backing that person generally knows the industry and the company really well, right? Mm-hmm. They're an insider. They've been around for a number of years. They've worked with the founder. They have a lot of that institutional knowledge. On the other hand, they may be set in the way of doing things, that we've always done it this way, and the founder wanted it done this way. It may be hard to change. The opposite side, you bring a CEO to the deal. They're definitely on your side. They're definitely seeing things the way you do, but they only know as much about the business as you know it to begin with, right? So they're coming into it with almost like a person in the private equity firm, and so they know what they know. Now, sometimes there's exceptions to that rule. Oftentimes, if we're pulling a CEO into business, we are pulling a CEO from that industry. So from a competitor, maybe from a large company that's gone out, they've retired from or stepped away from. In those cases, they're going to know the industry better than we do, but they won't know the individual company probably.
Typically, how long would you sit on a firm before you think about selling it?
So we're Howard Marks guys. Never be a forced buyer or seller. If you haven't read any Howard Marks, I would highly recommend Howard Marks. So we want to be in a position that we sell when it's the right time to sell and hold when it's the right time to hold. We don't want to be forced into either one of those cases. And so for us, that's less an issue of, it is a technology and a market issue. The technology issue is if I'm bringing in the MacLaurin group and we're doing a rewrite, I really don't want to be in the middle of a rewrite when I try and sell the company, because that's going to be a big red flag, right?
Sure.
That, that the buyer is going to say, well, how are we sure this is on track, that it's ever going to get done? What's it going to cost? There's going to be a load of issues.
Yeah, they don't want somebody else's headaches.
Right. They want it done as opposed to, in flight, basically. Mm-hmm. On the other side, we're super careful. We're Ansoff Matrix guys. So, we try to sell into the same market, which means, we're either getting new customers from our competitors. We're getting new customers that are finally ready to buy a solution in our space but haven't bought anything yet. Or we're trying to convince non-buyers, people that, that have never bought something in our space before to go buy something, right? We're not trying to go take our product and move into a different market. That usually is a time to sell for us. So if you hit the top of your market, you kind of the market leader, or you've hit the roof of the market with a particular product, well, then you pick that up, you got to go to a different market segment. That's hard to do. We would rather be sell somebody else that's in that market trying to do it for ourselves.
Got it. And some of the engagements that we've got involved in is what we call sort of mock or post or pre-due diligence, is where we sort of do a due diligence for a company that thinks they're about to be sold or go in the market, just to see if there's any red flags, etc. Is there any projects that are in flight and what have you? What sort of metrics are you looking for before you would even consider that a company's ready to go? And forget about the financial side of the fence. It's more from the technology side.
Interestingly enough, what I would say is we've been in deal situations the last couple of years where we have competitors that are doing no due diligence. No technical due diligence. So close in a week.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy. I mean, we came in second place on a deal, which, by the way, there's no value in second place. There's no silver medal.
As Jerry Seinfeld says, of all the losers, you're the best.
Exactly. Right. That's the, you can't really go at the end and raise the next fund going, well, we placed second in 10 deals. We're really good at number two. You have to win them. And, we've had people come in and say we'll close in a week, and especially bigger guys that are coming down that have typically bought much bigger companies that are coming down in this, to our end of the marketplace, and they're saying, well, if they're used to writing $200 million checks, now they're going to write a $50 million check. They'll close in a week and do no technical diligence. So it's hard. I mean, we have to figure out whether we like the market that we're in. We like the product space. You're never going to get to a level of technical due diligence that you want. You're not going to have time or effort to do that. I mean, very few any company that's worth buying has multiple people interested in buying it, and they're not going to let you pour through the organization for months at a time, verifying every little detail. They're just not going to let you do it. So, most firms will stand for financial due diligence, because it's sort of a state of the practice. So you're bringing in your auditors; they're going to audit the books. That's pretty standard. But tech due diligence or market diligence, those are trickier things to get done.
And it doesn't really matter the size of the deal. If you're in a race for closing it, it's a judgment call there and then.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to be in a race. I mean, in general, not that you don't want to compete. You want to compete. We want to buy companies from founders or spin outs from companies that want to work with us and want to work how we work. We tend to be and operationally engaged in our portfolio companies, bringing partners in, we're involved, we're rolling up our sleeves. We want to understand how these things work. And if that's not what you're looking for, then we're not the right partner for you.
Yeah, I would have to say that given that, I've worked closely with you over the years, etc., the ParkerGale model is very unique in the PE space. The amount of genuine love that which you give your portfolio company is rare. In terms of the operational support, it's not like you're smothering them or you're being their boss. You're genuinely in the trenches with them, trying to figure out how to get through a specific problem. Whereas we've seen other examples of where it's more of a, just bring me solutions, don't even bring me your problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the market that we're working in, and the size deals we do, we can do that. It's not hold, please. So it's politics season in Chicago. I swear to God, I get a million calls of, the robocall from your candidate. Hello, this is so-and-so, come out to vote. It's like, I'm a Florida resident, guys. Now I will say, historically speaking, not being a resident of Illinois has not precluded lots of people from voting.
True that. Well, it looks like Illinois could leverage some AI and understanding who their outreach is.
And I'm talking to you, 1960, Kennedy over Nixon. So, I think it's at the scale that we're buying and the number of companies we'll have in a given fund and the team that we have, we bring a lot of partners to bear, as you well know. I mean, we're not trying to do it ourselves. We're not saying we're the smartest guys. I think we're willing to ask the question. It's like, well, is there another way to do this, or could we use some help in doing this? And, oftentimes that's absolutely the case.
So what sort of question would a portfolio not want to ask a PE firm or an operational partner? What's the sort of thing that has you draw in a take of breath and say, oh, maybe not the right person in the role here?
It's more an attitude. They're not going to ask us they're not going to ask us one question that says, oh boy, if they are very stiff-armed. So, and that's, I'll say, here's how we could figure that out in a pre-close. If you're in a management meeting and the CEO does all the talking, that's probably going to be a challenge, right? That because, the best CEOs let their teams, you want the sales leader to talk about sales, marketing to talk about marketing, product management to talk about product management, engineering to talk about engineering. And if the CEO's basically running all those conversations, then he or she is probably a command and control person that's not going to be ideal for us, right? Because we're going to go behind, we're going to be behind the troops. When you close a deal, or as you look at it closing a deal, you sort of know you're in that situation because you're never unsupervised. Like when you show up at the company, there's always somebody, the CEO's with you in every meeting, and those are usually not great. You're going to have to develop some trust that I'm not going to blow your team up. On the other hand, that if I'm sitting in the room and you're sitting with me every single time, I'm not probably going to get truth. I'm going to get, what you, the CEO, wants your people to tell me, and that's not a great situation.
So I'm going to back you up a second. When we were talking about closing a deal in a week, you indicated that you're starting to see some PE firms kind of step out of their swim lane. Do you find that you're getting more of the larger firms stepping in towards the other end of the spectrum? How much have you seen that change, or do you feel like this is just cyclical, given where the economy is and where and maybe they have an influx of investment funds that they're able to step outside of their swim lane? Do you see any change in that industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cyclical. I mean, when the economy's been good for a number of years, prices are high. There's a lot of money swimming around in the marketplace. So it's a lot harder for a smaller firm to step up than it is for a bigger firm to step down. So if you're typically writing $20 million checks and now you want to write an $80 million check, first of all, you're probably prohibited from doing that based on your fund's documents. Like there's probably no deal can be more than 10% of the fund or something. So suddenly you're trying to write a check that will violate the terms of your basic agreement with your limited partners, which means you got to go get sign off from them. Or you're doing it as a club deal, meaning that you can't write the whole check. So you're trying to line up a few other private equity firms to write a check with you, and then you may not have control of that deal. That's really hard to do. Right. A lot easier for a bigger firm that's writing, $200 million checks to take a flyer and write a $50 million check. And that's why they can close in a week. They're not getting any debt, and they may be getting debt when they're writing a $200 million check. They probably don't do any debt when they're writing a $50 million check. So it's, it might be easier for them to step down, and it might actually be an easier thing for one of their newer junior partners. They're not going to let, somebody who's just been promoted to deal level partner in a private equity firm write a $200 million check on $1 billion fund. They might let them write a $50 million check, right? So we see more often they come down, and it'll be cyclical. Depending on how the market's doing, how much cash is sloshing around, we'll get guys that are like, oh, let's try and do a small deal. Let's look at a tech deal. Those seem like interesting things. I would tell you that I'm happy to compete with those guys. And it's a very different world at our level than it is at their level.
You've been listening to the first of a two-part series in which we explore the exciting world of private equity with Jim Milbery, founding partner with ParkerGale. Really encourage you to tune back in for the second part in this series. for a real treat, head over to the Private Equity Fundcast with none other than Jim Milbery and Devin Matthews. So until then, this is Jim Headley saying take care. See you next time.